In this video, we will demonstrate how the murder of Maleah Davis was premeditated and carried out by her mother, Brittany Bowens, with the assistance of her fiance, Darion Vince. So without further ado, let's get to the video.
The money was not readily available to bury her father. So she also did not have the money to pay for her own plane ticket. A family member of hers, a relative, paid for her ticket, and they didn't have the money to pay for the children to go. They only had enough to pay for her ticket.
Documents we obtained from the Harris County Clerk show that last August, the Department of Family and Protective Services received a report alleging physical abuse and neglectful supervision of Maleah. She was living with her mother, Brittany Bowens, and stepfather, Darion Vince, at the time. The state got involved after Maleah's mother brought her to the hospital with a head injury. Doctors had to do surgery to remove half of her skull. But that was not Maleah's first trip to the ER. According to records, 3 weeks earlier on July 10th, Bowens took Maleah to the ER after she was throwing up blood.
There's been several instances where people actually have saw her punch the kid and stuff like that.
Doctors reported Maleah was extremely lethargic. Maleah was treated and sent home. The very next week, on July 28th, Maleah was back in the hospital for a cut to her forehead. Medical professionals reported she had blood just outside of her brain. Neither parent was able to tell doctors what could have caused it. Bowen said she was hurt after falling from a chair, but medical professionals said that would not have caused the serious internal injuries. Doctors reported they were concerned about abuse. But in the end, the court found they could not confirm whether or not those injuries were caused by abuse.
In this graphic, we see the average cost of a brain surgery, and that cost typically ranges between $50,000 and $150,000.
Why did she leave her daughter with Vince? She says she didn't have the money to take Maleah with her.
This is a financially struggling family, living from nickel to nickel.
This graphic shows the average price of a 2011 Nissan Altima, which Brittany had just purchased within the prior 30 days.
They have insurance on Maleah and all of this insurance on Maleah, insurance on Maleah.
And financially, she didn't have the money to take the kids. She didn't even pay for her own ticket.
Now, did you have any suspicions that Maleah had been abused before she disappeared?
No.
This is the last time that Maleah Davis was ever photographed alive. This photo was taken at approximately 7:40 a.m. on the morning of April the 30th. Maleah would never leave the apartment. We'll get back to this in just a moment. So according to Jeanette, they left for the airport at about 9:30 that morning. Since Darion left shortly before 9 a.m., that means that Brittany was alone in that apartment with Maleah by herself on that morning. Now, Brittany claims that she did not know that Maleah was there, and she was concerned that she and Darion had been seen without Maleah. Why would she be concerned about that? And that would be because she did something wrong. Otherwise, why would she care if anyone saw her and Darion without their child? Why would Darion take his son and Maleah to daycare and come back with only Maleah when he was headed to work and Brittany was headed to the airport? Why? There is only one reason to bring her back to that apartment with no one there to care for her that day. The reason is because Brittany planned to kill her. It's not a coincidence that she had a flight scheduled immediately thereafter. He is leading the lamb to the slaughter, and he knows it. If Darion was trying to sneak her in, he would have probably held her, try to maybe keep her quiet. He's not trying to sneak her in. He's walking at least 30 feet in front of her.
The doorstep to 4-year-old Maleah Davis's family apartment now covered with teddy bears.
You can see in this clip how this apartment is laid out. If you look, the patio where someone would be smoking a cigarette is right in front of the walkway toward the door, toward the only entry to the apartment. It would be impossible for someone to be smoking on that patio without seeing someone walking up toward and into the apartment. In this clip, we see Darion leaving for work at 8:53 a.m.
He took you to the airport?
No, my friend took me to the airport.
This is a text from Brittany's friend Jeanette talking about how she took Brittany to the airport.
Were you comfortable leaving town with your children with Darion Vince?
Yes.
Friday, May 3rd. As Darion leaves with the laundry basket, he takes it to go put it in the Nissan, and he's seen a couple minutes later coming back into the apartment with bleach. But since the father of the children is coming to pick them up that afternoon, he presumably leaves the basket with the body in the trunk. And we'll get back to that in a moment. This is the indictment of Darion Vince showing that Craig Davis, who is the children's father, was scheduled to pick them up before 7 o'clock p.m. that day, which demonstrates why Darion couldn't leave before to dispose of the body, because he had to wait for the children's father to arrive. So at this point, we have to assume that Darion needs to get rid of the body that's in his trunk. So rather than going to the airport, he already knows he's not going to the airport. They've already concocted this story. He, at this point in time, is going to get rid of Maleah's body. That's where he's going. He's not even going to the airport.
Did you think he was ever capable of doing any harm to any of your children?
No.
Never
because
thought that?
that's not what I seen.
Who picked you up at the airport?
My mother.
I see.
Did.
Did you go to your apartment that night?
I sure did.
And was he there?
No, the car wasn't there. Nobody was answering the door, and the light was still on in the dining area.
She did go to the apartment. Straight from the airport, went to the apartment when he didn't pick her up.
Nobody answered.
So she goes back with her mom.
So here we see that Brittany shows up at Darion's brother's house at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. Where do you suppose Darion went? My money is on his brother's house.
At 8 o'clock in the morning to come to my other son's house to tell him that Darion was missing. I had actually talked to her the day before she went on the media. I'm like, this girl had something to do with this. And I'm wondering, like, why aren't the police even investigating her? Like,
so Darion still had the car, and he had his son at his brother's house. He stayed there at his brother's house that night. So in the morning, Brittany, however she got there, came to his brother's house to retrieve Darion and their son in the car. It's no coincidence that Darion's brother, Joe, left town soon afterwards, rather than be charged as an accessory to murder.
my other son decided to take his kids and his wife back to St. Louis. Junior decided to take his wife and his kids back to St. Louis.
So here one of them is filmed the next day driving the car around in Sugar Land, which is fairly close to their apartment.
Jania Soto lives just a few feet away from
And then
Maleah's home
Darion is
and claims
spotted
she
at
saw
the apartment
Darion
at
Vance,
7
who's now
p.m.
considered a
that
suspect
night.
in Maleah's disappearance last Saturday night around 7 o'clock in the evening.
And he was standing inside of his porch smoking, and he looked at us. He saw us, and he didn't have no bruise or nothing on his forehead. From my understanding, it was like he never came to the apartment. He went straight to the hospital Saturday. So my thinking, it was like, why did I see him here?
In this picture, we see the Nissan Altima dropping Darion off at the hospital at 11:21 p.m. on Saturday night, May the 4th. Now, who do you suppose was driving that car? I think the answer is obvious. It had to have been Brittany driving her own car to the hospital. They had spent the whole day together. They had been together, probably nervous, trying to figure out how they were going to get it together. And shortly before midnight on Saturday, May the 4th, Darion walks into the hospital and reports Maleah missing.
So when did you see him?
On Sunday, he came back to my mother's house.
To your mother's house?
Yes.
So why did he not come back to the apartment with you?
I didn't go to the apartment.
Oh, okay. So
I went back to with my mother. I didn't.
So you were both staying with your mom
Yeah.
at a certain point? Okay. How's your mom doing? She spoke the first time we heard from you. I remember her speaking at the news conference.
I haven't talked to her.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know.
Brittany, have you ever been afraid of Darion Vance?
No.
Has he ever harmed you in any way?
No.
Verbally abusive?
No.
Physically abusive?
No.
Darion was arrested, I believe, at his brother's house. Have you talked to his brother?
Next question.
So when you left, you had no concern that Vince could or would harm your child?
No.
And then she told my son, like, the night of, like, I'm about to get a Lifetime movie off of this.
So say my first name and spell it.
First and last name and spell it. This is going out live.
Live right now?
Just take your time. Just take your time.
But you're just recording right now, right? So this isn't live right now, right?
Not live on TV.
No?
Not on TV, no.
I don't want to do any questions. Not right now. My name is Brittany Bowens.